Thanks for listening to another life-transforming message from the team here at C3 Southwest Washington. To find out more about our church, visit c3swwa.com.
Well, good morning. I think we could just go home now after that. I mean, yeah. Anyways, I have the privilege to share this morning on, I chose the character of Ruth. It was really a challenge for me because Ruth is such a short book in the Bible. It's 4 chapters, but it's packed with so much information, and there's so much good character traits within it, and each character that is portrayed in the book of Ruth. So for me, trying to narrow it down was a little bit of a challenge. I was trying to really reflect a good, solid foundation with Ruth. But honestly, if you look at, Ruth, Naomi, Boaz, every character has amazing traits that hit our lives in ways that I just was in awe of what God had showed me and revealed to me. But I'm going to do Ruth, and I chose her and her story. It resembles the things that we face within our own lives. How much her story can be a blueprint into our future. It really portrays the things that her story, the things that we can walk through, our relationships with friends, family, businesses, and even just to finding our own purpose. Ruth is a great reflection of the character of God and how he wants to build his character through us. So in Ruth, the story is about a family, Naomi and her husband and her 2 sons, that leave the town of Bethlehem of Judah and go into, they traveled to Moab, because in that era, it was a time of famine. It was dark. It was right after Judges, so it was in a really dark time in the Bible where there wasn't a king, there wasn't a lot of law. People didn't follow laws, rules. They kind of did their own thing. So to find a family that is trying to figure out their own way, they kind of walked away from God. They left the promised land. They left Bethlehem into Moab to find food, to start a different life for a while. And in doing so, Naomi and her husband died, and she was left with her 2 sons, and they married Moabite women, and Naomi and Orpah. And that just kind of sets the stage of where they're at, and they were there for 10 years. So imagine 10 years of life with Naomi and her 2 sons and their wives. And they're doing life, they're living, they're experiencing things, and tragedy strikes again, and her sons die. So at this point, Naomi, knowing her past in Bethlehem of Judah, that she knew her past, where she had came from, and now she wants to go back. So she decides to take her 2 daughter-in-laws and go back. So Naomi takes Ruth and Orpah, and they head back to Bethlehem, and they decide, and along the way, basically, Naomi stops and says, listen, you guys, I'm going to release you, and you can go back to your hometown, go back to your your parents' house, and you can get married and have husbands, because there's no way. I don't have anything to offer you but God. That's all I have. I'm never going to have sons again. I'm never going to be able, you're not going to have kids. We're not going to, have anything. And she was kind of in a very, very sad place. Mind you, they're grieving, they're without food, they're without homes, they're women. At that era, there wasn't like they can go out and just get a job. Yes, they could work. Yes, they could do those things. But it was harder when they were away from, basically, their hometown of Bethlehem. So things were harder. So Naomi decides to go back. And in this moment, this is where the character of Ruth starts to develop, and it can reflect in our lives. But first I want to pray. Lord, I just ask right now that you would just impact us with the character of Ruth. Lord, that you would set a standard for us to look up to, Lord. Lord, that we would find a place in us that would speak the characters that you are showing and revealing in this demonstration of Ruth's life, Lord. Lord, that it would be impactful to us, Lord. Lord, that we would be honored to resemble and reflect from Ruth's life and her story. And we just thank you in Jesus' name. So in this, Ruth married into the Christian family. Ruth is an example of us as being, sinners. And she got married into the Christian family, a Jewish family. So that gave her, the knowledge of reading the Bible, because it wasn't written then. It wasn't illustrated at that moment, but she married into it. So like when we ask Jesus into our lives, that's what starts and begins to build our relationships. So she had 10 years with her relationship with her husband and his family, and then life happens and her characteristics start to unfold. So her first character trait is determination. In Ruth 1:16-17, it says, "Don't plead for me to abandon you." She's speaking to Naomi, her mother-in-law. "Let me return and follow, and not, or let me start over. Please, don't plead me to abandon you or to return. Do not follow you, for wherever you go, I will go. For wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I die. Where you are, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me and do so severely if anything but death separates me from you." So right there, she was already making a bond with Naomi. She was setting a standard for herself. She was leaving everything she knew to follow Naomi, to leave, especially in the time when her husband's died. She's leaving the land that she knew, her comfort zone. So in this separation, Ruth made up her mind to follow Naomi to Bethlehem and live amongst people of God rather than return to the land of her father in Moab. Ruth already had put her life on the line, and she left her father. She left everything that made it comfortable for her. So in this, the character trait that is inspiring is how she chose God and family, just like Jesus chose us. And he died to lay down his life for us. Basically, Naomi's walking that out, and she doesn't even know it yet. She wouldn't even have seen it at this point. But in that, it started a character trait that she laid down everything that was comfortable, everything that was familiar, everything that she felt that she could hold on to in a really hard time. She laid it down. And so she was determined to grow in what she had learned in her faith in God. She had become, she had learned about God through this family and this relationship that she was building, and she was determined to follow it out, to see it all the way through. So sometimes in our life, we are faced with crossroads: death, loss of jobs, loss of houses, loss of food. These are all things that she faced, but also we face today. I mean, we're kind of in a really, in a fallen world. It's not perfect. It's really hard and humbling. But in this, Ruth had a choice. She could let things that are in front of her weigh her down and walk away. She could have gone back to what she was comfortable in this time of grief and sorrow. No one would have blamed her. No one would have even, thought twice. She was grieving. Plus, her life would have been easier if just going back to what was familiar. I mean, how many times do we say that? Life would be easy. It's just, I can go back to what I know is familiar. No stretching, no pushing. Anyways, God's really stretched me in the whole learning about this whole series, because I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the book Purpose Driven Life. A quote out of that book that I read was, "Life is about character, not about comfort." And how many times is that, we want to always speak about, oh, well, that's not comfortable. That's not something I want to do. I just won't do that. But it really speaks of our character when we can move outside of our comfort zone and into a place that, we're growing and stretching, and that really spoke to me in her determination. She was determined, and that's just one aspect of where she started. But the next thing was humility and honor that really spoke to me through Ruth. And some of these scriptures were in Ruth 2:2. Ruth the Moabite asked Naomi. In that era, this is Naomi. They're back in Bethlehem now. They're back in her hometown, and in that air, she showed respect to Naomi by honoring her and asking permission to go out into the fields and glean. So in this, she asked, "Will you let me go into the fields and gather or fallen grain behind someone who might find favor?" Or Naomi answered her, "And go ahead, my daughter." I mean, that was humility. She could have just took it upon herself to do what she wanted, but she really wanted Naomi's blessing. But not only that, but she wanted to honor her mother-in-law in this time. And then the second was 2:10 through 11. This is when she had been working in the fields, and Boaz came back. And if any of you guys want to look up Boaz and a character for business, for relationships, for honoring and respect and building business, that's the guy to read after. You want to read Boaz. His character is just amazing too. But in this, she, in 2:10 through 11, she fell down and bowed on the ground. She said to him, "Why have I found favor with you, so that you take notice of me? Although I am a foreigner." She was an outcast. She was somebody that they didn't have to honor her. They didn't have to let her glean and stuff. She wasn't part of their church, basically. She's building that relationship at that point in time. Boaz answered her, "Everything you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband's death has been fully reported to me. How you left your father and your mother in your native land, and you have come to a people that you didn't previously know." She is walking out an area that's uncomfortable. It's not, she didn't know what to expect. She left everything that was comfortable and familiar to her. And the people took notice. People around her, the people were talking. They saw her character. They saw the things that she was doing and laying down. And so in this it says, being humble is often misunderstood as being weak or, low self-esteem. In reality, being humble is to think of yourself less often and often more of others. You can seek to recognize the value of others and serve them first without distinguishing or diminishing your own value. So in that really spoke big to me. Humility is hard sometimes. It's hard to let go of things that, being vulnerable, I deserve or I should be able to, it's hard to just say, no, I'm honored. I get to, and shifting our perspective into the posture of it's an honor to serve. It's an honor to be able to respect my mother-in-law in a way that, I didn't know I should or could. And that's the way that we should treat the people that we come in contact. It's an honor to serve. It's an honor to be able to speak into their lives and to be what they need us to be. Ruth sought first and foremost to serve and support her mother-in-law. She did this with great respect. She learned of the relationship of the people that she worked with in the field. They honored and respected her. She respected them. She didn't feel entitled to get hers. She didn't think they owe me. Yeah, I'm struggling. Hello, I need a handout. I deserve. No, she went in with humility, and it was an honor to be able to gather and glean in the fields and provide for her family. She didn't go in with expecting a handout, but rather a heart of submission to those authorized and a strong work ethic. She did not go unnoticed. The people around her noticed her. They noticed what was happening, what was taking place all around her. The things that we do day to day doesn't go unnoticed. The things that we do at work, the things that we do behind closed doors, they don't go unnoticed. God notices, and he knows our hearts. And this brings me to, the hardworking and courageous are the other ones. Mind you, I had to really shove a ton of characteristic traits in because I couldn't settle on one or two or three like I was supposed to, so I kind of mixed them all together. But really it's because I didn't want to leave them out. There was so much in Ruth to be able to, that God really dealt with in me, that I really want people to see in me. I want to be a hard worker. I want to be courageous. I want to be determined. These characteristics are just the surface of what I really feel like God is stretching even in me. And I just hope that this is something you guys could find in you. But so in Ruth 2:17, she said, "Please let me glean and gather amongst the sheaves these after the reapers." So she came and she continued from early morning until now, except for a short rest. So this is Boaz had asked the guy that was over the field, who is this? And how long has she been here? What's happening? So this is her showing that she came and she asked him to glean, and she's been here working hard right along with everybody else. Mind you, this is not normal for her. This is not what she would have been. She wouldn't have gone out to a field to work normally. This is not something that would have been probably even comfortable for her. She's working and gleaning all day in a desert. I mean, it's not like it was, winter and, it's the harvest time. It's right after the cool weather, so it's right before the heat, so it's really hot. And then another verse was 2:17. So Ruth gathered grain into the field until evening. She beat out what she had gathered, and it was about 26 quarts of barley. I mean, so not only did she go and gather it all, but she also had to beat it all out and to separate it from, the stems and yeah, Dave, thank you. But so yes, even doing that, I mean, that would not have been a normal thing that she would have learned. So she would have had to been watching, paying attention to the people around her, and taking notes, and just, I mean, that's a lot of work. That's a hard work in those times that to work all day, and then to separate it, and then I mean that was a lot. I mean, 20 some quarts of grain, barley, So that really spoke to me about her hard work characteristics. I mean, she didn't give up. She didn't quit. She didn't take a ton of breaks. She worked hard. That was a lot of grain to gather in that time. And she showed up every day. So not only that, but I also, the last verse I wrote, it's hard to probably put it into the place of what the setting, and I'll try to do my best to do it justice. It says, in Ruth 3:9, "I am your servant Ruth," she said. "Spread your corner of your garment over me, since you are my guardian redeemer of our family." This is what she had spoke to Boaz. So not only was she working hard, but she also took some advice from her mother-in-law, of in this time, how to even fulfill her life after, her husband had died, and she's coming back and working hard for Naomi, her mother-in-law. And now to fulfill her own life, her mother-in-law has given her some rules to follow. This is kind of what happens. This is how we get redeemed here in our land. This is the protocol and what you would do. So she went to Boaz and pretty much asked for his covering and his protection over her. And in that time also, that was also a courtship, that she chose him to be her redeemer. Kind of like when we choose God to redeem us. We choose to surrender our lives to him and to walk in that relationship. So Ruth was no slouch. She worked from morning to night every day during harvest season without complaining. Truth is, I'm not sure I could have done it. And I'm not sure I could have worked that hard. I'm not sure that I would have had the endurance to withstand, what she went through. I mean, she lost her whole family, everything she knew, and then walked into a place and laid everything down and worked hard. She put her head down, did her job, did what she was supposed to. And, the servant, let's see if I can find my place. The servant in the change, the servant in charge of men and the women in that time in the fields, they all took notice of her diligence and her hard work. We are example of the people that we are to the people that we are around. Ruth did her work unto the Lord, and did not complain or did not look for applause or others to acknowledge her, or she didn't feel entitled to, the benefits of it. She got more than what she could imagine in that time. In this time, she, not only was determination, humble, honoring, hardworking, and courageous some of her characteristic traits, but Ruth's faith was activated. In this time, her faith was activated. She declared, "Your God will be my God." And that was in Ruth 1:16. And she was committed to trust him. God does not disappoint. Throughout the story, it unfolds her journey, how he provides intimate care is evidence. As she had abundance in grain. He was giving her safety and protection. Mind you, in that time when you gleaned in the fields, you were subject to, rape, murder. I mean, there were things that happened in that time. There was no laws, but Boaz, being a man of integrity and honor, he gave that to her by allowing her to glean in his fields. So God directed her into a place of safety. God directed her to a place of abundance, more than she could have ever asked for in that time. And then finally it ended in marriage. She ended up marrying Boaz. So our character traits, and guiding and following in what God has for us leads to the ultimate, things that we could never imagine that our characteristic traits really represent is ultimately our purpose in our walk through God, And so in this story, not only does, she find grain, safety, food and protection, but she also finds her kinsman redeemer, a redeemer that sets her family into motion, a life that she would have never have had without laying it all down, without being determined, without, hard work, without her characteristic traits. And this led to the birth of her son. I mean, her son is the great-grandfather of David. And David is the lineage of Jesus. This is where we get Jesus, our kinsman redeemer. And that is the story that God wants in our characteristic traits, is for us to lay our lives down and to pick up the characteristic traits that he sets before us that we read in the Bible. He wants us to lean into him as our kinsman redeemer. And in that, I really feel like God just wants us to start looking at our own characteristics and take away the characters of what the Bible has really set before us. And, just finding our purpose and our place in our character traits. And look, I did it. Yeah. I just want to pray one more time, that I just want to pray that each and every one of us can look at ourselves in a way that God would find honor in us, that God would start to grow and to stretch our character traits to honor and reflect him in each and every area of our lives. Lord, that in our jobs, in our families, and in the people that we come in contact with, Lord, that every hard moment, Lord, that our character traits would still represent and reflect you. And we just thank you and we glorify you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks for listening. To find out more about our pastors, leaders, and what we do at C3 Church, visit our website at c3swwa.com.